first panel this morning will focus on partnerships between corporate legal departments and legal aid programs to expand access to justice for low-income veterans. We're spotlighting two particular partnerships this morning, one between the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles and Fox television stations, and the other between Marsh & McLennan Companies and Legal Services New York City. I'll start by introducing our panelists. On my extreme left is Nicole Perez, who is a managing attorney at the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. The Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is this year celebrating its 90th anniversary. Next to Nicole is Lisa Rafferty, who is Vice President for Legal Affairs at Fox television stations in Los Angeles. To my immediate right is Peter Bashar, who is Executive Vice President and General Counsel of Marsh & McLennan Companies. And to his right is Dow Sun, who is a Senior Staff Attorney at Manhattan Legal Services. I'll start by asking Nicole and Dow to describe the client population among veterans that they serve. If you could tell us something about the demographics of the low-income veterans population, age, the conflicts they served in. If you could tell us something about their legal needs. Are they similar to or different from the legal needs of other legal services programs, and how you came to other legal services clients, rather, and can you tell us something about how you came to set up particular programs to serve low-income veterans? We'll start with Nicole.
Thank you. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to John, thank you, Jim, for inviting us here and LSC to the law school. This is a gorgeous building. So I work in Los Angeles. I work at Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, and there I took a look at our statistics. Last year we served 1,375 veterans. So quite a robust number of veterans. And to give you a bit of the demographics, 14% of our veteran clients were women. That is a little on par, a little bit over from the statistics of veterans in Los Angeles who are women, but about 100% of the women that we served, of the female veterans, have told us that they experienced military sexual trauma or sexual harassment. So that's huge. In addition to that, about 3/4 of the veterans that we serve are veterans of color. And primarily 46% of them are Black veterans. And this is a huge overrepresentation of Black veterans in Los Angeles. Black veterans make up only 16%, but yet we see about half of our clients being Black veterans, and that shows us a lot about intersectionality. And lastly, we see about 1/2 of our veterans are actually age 60 plus, which is huge in and of itself. So basically, our typical client is someone who is a veteran of color who served primarily during the Vietnam era or shortly thereafter and is still, many decades later having a difficult time reintegrating back into society. So that's primarily who we serve.
How do veteran clients find their way to you?
Many different ways. So it can include things like calling our hotline. It also includes going to one of our many different clinics or outreach projects throughout Los Angeles County. And we have partnerships with several different community-based organizations, including the VA, so that veterans can have a warm referral into our services.
How does it break down? Do most people come through your telephone hotline, or are most people referred to you by other organizations?
Yeah, it really varies. I'd say if someone has a housing problem, like they're facing an imminent eviction, they're going to call our hotline. But otherwise, if they have other legal issues, almost always we'll meet them at one of our clinics. And our clinics are located where homeless veterans live. The vast majority of our clients are homeless. So we meet them either at bridge housing, transitional shelters, or other places where they'll go to access services, and that's where we'll get them one-on-one.
Thank you, Nicole. Dow, could you give us an overview of the veteran population, the low-income veteran population in New York, similar to what Nicole just told us about in Los Angeles?
Sure. There are about 200 veterans in New York City. 30% served during the Vietnam era, and the remainder served during the Korean, World War II, Gulf, and post-9/11 wars. The vast majority of the veterans in New York City are under the age of 54, so we have a younger population here in New York City. And about 10% of the 200,000 veterans in New York City live under the federal poverty guidelines. LSNYC serves about 1,500 veterans a year. the greatest challenge we see facing veterans that come to us are housing issues, followed by consumer issues as well as benefits. And we also assist veterans in family law issues and unemployment. We get our veterans come to us through either our general intake hotline or through referrals from the court and other not-for-profits that we partner with.
Are there particular veterans organizations that you partner with?
We partner with the VA, we partner with Help USA, as well as the Harlem Vet Center and other vet centers located across the 5 boroughs.
You mentioned consumer issues right behind housing as a common problem that the veteran clients you see face. What kind of consumer issues?
Student loans, as well as judgments that were default judgments from civil or Supreme Court.
How long have you had a particular focus on serving veterans, a program for serving veterans?
I'm not sure the exact number of years, but it's been over 5 years, I would say, a little longer than that.
Thank you. So Lisa, let's talk about your partnership with the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. Can you tell us how it got started, what it is that the lawyers in your legal department do, and how you help leverage the limited resources of the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles to expand service for low-income veterans in your community?
Sure. Our partnership came about we were really lucky because one of our deputy general counsels was on the board of LAFLA. So when we started our pro bono council, we approached her and she referred us to Legal Aid Foundation. One of the issues for us is not only finding a really good legal services organization to partner with, but also we have to have a legal services organization that provides malpractice insurance for our attorneys, because as in-house attorneys, we're not covered by our own malpractice insurance. So it does really limit the partners we can really work with.
Can you say more about that? I mean, there are a lot of in-house corporate lawyers who are interested in doing pro bono, but it can be hard for them to access pro bono opportunities because they don't tend to have the infrastructure that, say, big law firms have around their pro bono programs. So what are the things that you look for in a legal aid partner to try to alleviate some of the barriers that your lawyers might otherwise face in doing pro bono work?
Well, one of the main things we look for is smaller projects that our attorneys can handle in shorter amounts of time, because it is different for the in-house lawyers who don't have all the support of a big law firm to handle, particularly litigation matters that we don't have the expertise in, much less the ability to throw a bunch of lawyers at. So we're really looking for someone who can put together smaller sized projects for our attorneys to handle. Also, we need, obviously, corporate transactional work is not necessarily the kind of work that veterans and other low-income families need help with. So we need someone with a lot of expertise to be able to train our attorneys. And so what we're able to do is provide the funding for these events and then they come in with their expertise, they train us, and we're then able to serve a lot of veterans, in this case, in a very short amount of time.
So you mentioned events. Is that the principal outreach that you do to try to identify the client population you want to serve? And can you tell us about the events and what you do to help make them happen?
Sure. The events that we do mostly are clinics. We try to focus on clinics because it doesn't require our attorneys to have an ongoing case that they have to handle. It's less intimidating for our attorneys because they know that they're not going to be, months and months and months working on something that might be over their head. So as far as expertise, what we're looking for really is someone who can show our attorneys really everything. We really don't have any expertise in the areas of law that we're working in. So when we try to identify different areas of law, we want it to be something that's going to appeal to a broad range of our attorneys, because when we put on our clinic events, we want to have a good number of attorneys there to help all the clients. And it just so happens that veterans events are very popular. So that's how we ended up focusing on veterans events, because not only do we get a lot of attorneys to volunteer, we also get a lot of support from the corporation, because veterans events, it really makes everyone feel connected, because even if you're not in the military, and even if you have no connection with a military family, you do benefit from what the military does. So I think everyone does feel that connection And we did start out with a really broad range of clinics. We were trying to give everyone something to work on, right? You might not want domestic violence, maybe you want conservatorship, but we kept coming back to the veterans events because they were the ones that appealed to so many different people. And also, we really do cover a lot of different kinds of problems in a veterans clinic. Instead of focusing on, one thing like conservatorships, we focus on a client base, which is veterans, and they have a broad range of problems. So it gives our attorneys a wide variety of things to think about.
Where do you do these events?
We've done them in various locations. So we've done a clinic at their LAFLA's offices in downtown LA. LA is a huge area, right? So we want to make sure our services are available. We've done events at the Veterans Center. We just finished one of those. That was very successful. And we've rented a bus and we've gone to Palmdale, which is about an hour and a half north of Los Angeles, to help that population because they have even less opportunity and access to get legal services.
You mentioned that the typical legal problems of low-income veterans are not transactional matters of the type that in-house corporate lawyers are likely to be doing day to day. What are they doing? And how do you overcome the fear factor, the reluctance of lawyers to get beyond their areas of usual competence to take on things that they've never done before?
Well, with the fear factor, taking this backwards, it is interesting because I think we get a lot of volunteers who say, oh, I want to help with veterans events, and then we get to the training. And so the way we set them up is we do an hour and a half training during lunch, and then we have an afternoon clinic. And so a lot of times when the attorneys get to the training and they see the training binder, which is about this thick, because it has tabs for all the different kinds of issues that a veteran can bring to you, I've had a lot of people, saucer-eyed at me, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And I say, do not worry, after your training session, you're going to feel so much more confident. But we also have the LAFLA staff attorneys on site so that when you're working with your clients and you have something that you can't figure out yourself, you just ask the attorney to help you. We also always at least pair up our attorneys when they're helping clients so that they're working in a team. They don't feel like they're left on an island by themselves to handle something that they don't understand. And we also remind them that this is a process. You don't have to know the answer off the top of your head. You can look it up. We give them a computer so that they can look on the web. We've had sometimes there are questions that are not in our binder, and you just have to start surfing the web and trying to figure it out.
How many staff attorneys from the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles will be on site when you do one of these clinics?
So our team is 3 attorneys in our Veterans Justice Center. So we'll always have the 3 of us available, but then depending upon the size of the clinic, we're going to bring others from the foundation. So we have about 62 lawyers in the organization across our 5 offices, and every once in a while we'll pop people in. But we'll have a pretty robust support system providing that hands-on support.
And Lisa, could you say something about the substance of, tell me about the tabs in the binder. How many are there? What are the subjects?
There's probably about 10 tabs. We do expungements, military discharge changes, tickets and warrants, housing issues. What is some
Veterans benefits.
Veterans benefits.
Debt issues.
There's a lot of different things, but then there can be just the curveball that's thrown at you that's not in there. I had a client once who couldn't get his divorce paperwork from Mexico, and he needed that for his benefits. So we got on the web and we found out how to get that paperwork. So.
Do the lawyers in your legal department over time have an opportunity to develop expertise in some of these individual subjects so that a client might be referred to this lawyer for this kind of problem and that lawyer for a different kind of problem? Or
we haven't quite gotten to that stage yet, actually, but there's so many different ones that you could probably go to 10 clinics and not get the same issue twice. So for the most part, we have just been handling the clinics. It's you get the client you get. We're not funneling anyone in a particular direction.
So it sounds as if the critical elements of the success of your program are regular opportunities at clinics set up by the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, training to get people comfortable with doing work that they may not have done before, and on-site support, both from the three lawyers from the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles and also from your colleagues who are
Absolutely.
pairing together in a kind of team-building exercise.
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes.
So Peter, tell us about the project that you work on with Legal Services New York City.
Great, Jim. I was getting a little worried that you'd forgotten about me over here. So, good morning, everybody. Good morning. Come on, you can do better than that. It's a veterans event. Good morning, everybody. All right, anybody veteran here in the audience? Fantastic. Army? Air Force? Army? HUA?
The Navy.
Navy? Marines? All right, well, it's great to be here. I first got exposed to the members of the armed forces when I served as a special assistant to Cyrus Vance in Bosnia. And it really was an extraordinary learning experience for me to just really see French peacekeepers, British peacekeepers, Russian, Egyptian, trying to operate in a war zone where there was ethnic cleansing going on, and at the same time, under very difficult rules of engagement, trying to maintain the peace as best you can. And I have very few regrets in my life, but one of them would be that I never served in the military. So I've spent some of that time since the early 90s really trying to look for different avenues where you could try in some ways to acknowledge the extraordinary service that members of the armed forces, particularly here, provide to our country. So I had this kind of passion that we wanted to do something, but as many of the speakers have said, at Marsh & McLennan, the corporate legal department is not structured and well-oiled with a clear pro bono coordinator and a really established set of relationships. And so we stumbled our way first to Brenna Devaney at Skadden, because Skadden just has this commitment to pro bono that's been legendary, the early pro bono fellows, and just all the great work that Skadden partners do. And they brought us to Legal Services NYC, so Dow's organization. And if I could ask Adam Heinz and Erica Szymanski to just stand up briefly. These are the leaders. Give it up for them. Come on. These are two of the most wonderful civil public law lawyers that you could possibly encounter in life. They would set up a training, and from the moment that our colleagues would arrive, and we have one colleague here, Lorraine Feldman, would you stand up? From the Marsh & McLennan Legal Department. And you have all this goodwill. People want to do good in America. This is one of the most generous countries in the world, but they don't have the avenues and the vehicles to try to figure out how to actually do it. So we had Skadden and Legal Services NYC behind us. And then I come from the GC community, and there are heaps and heaps of lawyers and compliance professionals who now work at these corporate law departments. We have 600 at Marsh & McLennan. And this idea that all the mojo is at the law firms and the corporations are just a little sprinkling, I think that's an old view of really where the resources actually exist. So I called up the general counsel of Starbucks, a company that has historically hired heaps and heaps of veterans, Lucy Helm, and I said, we want to try to do this, and will you partner with me? She said she'd be delighted to, and Goldman, general counsel, said the same thing. So now we got 3 companies. We got the law firm Legal Services NYC. And many projects, you just got to start. You just got to begin the journey. So we had our first Military Mondays legal clinic on the first Monday of the month in a Starbucks cafe on the 2nd floor of 45th Street off of 5th Avenue. And we had probably 5 lawyers ready. We didn't have tabs of binders. Really, Adam and Erica's advice was just start with a single issue. So we were going to help vets with Social Security disability benefits. That was the box.
How in the world do you get people to show up on the 2nd floor of a Starbucks at that location?
Not very well. So on our first clinic, one lonely veteran, probably looking for a cappuccino,
Just staple.
saw our sign.
Did you tape things to light posts? How did that person find you?
We had some signs down at the bottom, and then Adam and Erica and Dow were really helping us with kind of different modes of outreach. And so we have one person come by. So we've got like 8 people surrounding this one veteran who's like, has no idea what's actually happening. But then, you begin the journey. and the next clinic, and the next clinic, the next Monday. We started growing and literally outgrew our space. And then also the needs. We had chosen this box of Social Security disability benefits, but of course everybody doesn't just come in and fit neatly within that box. They need help with domestic orders, child support payments that they've made. If you have failed to pay your child support payment, you lose your driver's license. Well, if you lose your driver's license, there are a lot of things that prevent you from really integrating yourself into society. So this thing just kept growing and growing. More and more corporations want to then join. This is something that's really important about leadership. If you just put a stake in the ground and you say, this is what we are going to do, my experience is, at least, is that other people come along. And so then other corporations want to join this effort because there's so much goodwill, both in the country and just within this department, these departments that don't have that ready vehicle. So then a key next step, you want me to keep going, or you want me to?
You're doing great. Keep going.
Key next step was, okay, well, where are the veterans? How do you make it easy for them as opposed to easy for us? The 45th Street was half a block away from our office. That suited us just fine, but harder for the community. So why not meet the community that you're trying to serve where they are? So the mayor's office and a wonderful brigadier general named Lori Sutton, Dow may talk about this, joined our Mary Band trying to help. And she said, you know, if you do it at essentially a VA hospital on 23rd Street, all the communities coming in for other services, and then it's just so much easier to peel off and have them. So we moved the operation, and I had some hesitance about that, because for people like Lorraine and the many other people volunteering, now trying to go, it sounds ridiculous, but 25 blocks is a bigger commitment of time when I'm busting their asses telling them to do all the work of Marshall McLennan. But to be near the people who are really serving, who are in need, was so much more important. And we started out in kind of a dingy room that wasn't very well lit and the like, but then more and more veterans started coming. And so we now have this big room. It's not as big as this, but it's probably half of this, where the Legal Services NYC team, together with Skadden, together with 8 different corporations now, are staffing probably 6 to 8 tables concurrently. And to much of what Lisa and Nicole have said, the legal aid support is so fundamental. They are just sitting right there next to you. And so when the question comes that inevitably you don't know the answer to, instead of just mumbling about, the legal aid staff lawyer kind of steps in very adroitly, and that partnership has just really been spectacular.
What about training? Before your lawyers get to the Veterans Center or wherever they're doing these clinics, what kind of training do they get to prepare them for this work that's likely to be unfamiliar?
Do you want to cover that down?
Sure. Before corporate partners come on board and joins the Military Monday Clinic, LSNYC provides a full training on the subject matters that we're assisting the veterans with. So either training with Social Security benefits, child support modifications, housing issues, as well as downward child support modifications. And we do have a binder with the exhibit tabs that provides a roadmap to the pro bono attorneys that volunteer their time on every Monday, of the first Monday of every month.
How many lawyers will you have on site at one of these Military Monday clinics?
It varies, but anywhere between 12 to 20, because we have 2 sessions.
12 to 20 of legal aid lawyers?
Yeah, we have
Wow.
2 sessions, one from 1 to 3, and then 3 to 5.
Total lawyers,
So
everybody involved.
Everybody involved.
So tell us more about the other participants in Military Mondays. Peter mentioned that his company, Marsh & McLennan, is an active participant. You mentioned reaching out to Starbucks. Who else participates, and how did the others come on board?
I think it might have been through the grapevine. They heard that Skadden was doing this great Military Monday clinic, and they wanted to be part of it. We have HSBC join.
Barclays, HSBC, Estee Lauder, Bank of New York Mellon. I mean, just really some prominent corporations in the New York area really reaching out, eager to help.
What is Skadden's role in this?
Skadden, like Peter said, is a great partner. They provide the support staff that we need. They help conduct outreach. They sit in the front and greet the veterans because we do take walk-ins at the clinic. They screen the veterans to ensure that it's the subject matters that our pro bono attorneys were trained on and can help them with. They help do outreach to the veteran communities so that the veterans know about the Military Monday.
And just say one of the really magnificent aspects of the program is my take on American society is basically you have the military over here and you have the civilian world over here. And the reality is these two circles, there's not a lot of space in that Venn diagram. Military typically begets military. If you meet people in the armed services, so often they are the children, relatives, cousins of other people serving in the military, which I think speaks volumes about the military service and what that path offers. And then you have all the rest of us over here. And we honor them, we try to recognize them, but at the same time, we have so little comprehension of what the experiences are that they went through and what their needs are when they return. And so this idea that you're just creating a little bit of connectivity, that little space where people like Lorraine get exposure to folks who it's not all sweetness and light. You know, there are people who have served in prison since returning from serving abroad and the like. And so it's a complex community, but when you see the reaction of the people that you have set this concept up to try to help, it is just immensely rewarding.
Is this the first Monday of every month?
It is
Yes.
indeed. Keep it simple.
And are you doing them all in the one veterans location now?
Yes, it's first Monday of every month, and we're there. Unless it's a holiday, then I'll go to the second Monday of that month.
Lorraine, could I ask you to just stand up spontaneously? Any observations or insights about your experience? How many times have you been?
I try to go 4 times a year, once a quarter, and it's a phenomenal experience. The partnership with Skadden and Legal Services NYC, I mean, if there's a question that comes up, I'm happy to go to one of our partners for assistance, and we also partner between the corporations. So it's not just Marsh working with Marsh attorneys and compliance people, it's me working with Barclays. And so we are really partnering all together, and just you walk out feeling so good afterwards. The little bit that we can do to help means so much.
Adam or Erica, anything that you'd offer?
I would say it's fantastic seeing people come together from different corporations, sitting at a table, listening to a veteran share their story. And that's a lot of what we learned, is just having a conversation and hearing their story. And it gives them an opportunity to share their story. And it might be the first time that they've met with an attorney, and just seeing the interaction and the connection between the attorneys and the veteran is something very special to sit back and look at.
Eric, I'm so glad you said that. I had really forgotten that basic point that people will say, veterans that we have met with, this is the first time somebody has really sat down and listened to me, and the importance of that.
I'd like to acknowledge Ron Rasmussen, who's the Executive Director of Legal Services, New York City. Would you stand up, Ron, please? So now, how is this funded? Have you had any help from anybody?
Yes, we have. Military Monday Clinic is largely funded by LSC's Pro Bono Innovation Fund. It was first granted in 2007 and has been renewed through 2021. This project and clinic has increased private givings from our corporate partners and from law firms.
Thank you for that. The Pro Bono Innovation Fund is supported through a special line in our appropriation from Congress every year since 2014. It's now $4.5 million a year. I remember distinctly when the application for this project came in 2017. I thought it was brilliant. The idea of combining a big law firm, multiple corporate legal departments with LSNYC, to serve veterans. It was very well organized, very focused. They had the name already, Military Mondays. And one of our goals in funding pro bono projects like this is to try to identify replicable models that others across the United States might be able to implement. A model like this probably works best in a big city that has corporate legal departments, but there's no reason why this model can't be replicated in places like Chicago, and we've got the model in Los Angeles. What a great example that you're setting. So I want to put the spotlight on Lisa and Peter for to ask about your personal leadership. Tell me how your corporate legal departments came to have pro bono programs at all, and what your personal role has been in setting them up.
So I came to Fox about 13 years ago, and there was no pro bono organization there at all. And I'd set up a pro bono council at my prior organization, but when I started at Fox, I was in a satellite office, and I was still kind of getting my wheels wet. So I was just taking on pro bono cases by myself, and I had a huge victory in one of my pro bono cases, and the personal satisfaction that it brought me was just so great. And I thought, other people need to have this feeling. This is such a great feeling. I really helped someone. And so I contacted our general counsel, and I said, we need to set up a pro bono council, and he was very enthusiastic. So I was very lucky. I think, as Peter mentioned earlier, everyone wants to help. Sometimes it takes a leader to have the path made, but there's a lot of desire to help. And so just setting up the organization, making the events easy for people to volunteer at, and the response has been amazing. And we really have reaped the benefits, because we get the feedback from our attorneys all the time about how much they love these events. They're proud to work for Fox. I got it, particularly after our last Veterans Clinic, which was very popular, such that we were afraid we were going to have to start turning away volunteers. I got a lot of feedback that, we're so proud that Fox is supporting these events. And so it really is one of those things that there is no downside, it's only upside. The corporation benefits, the employees benefit, the veterans benefit, and so we've really had a really great experience with it.
Peter, how did pro bono get started at Marsh & McLennan?
I'd say there are a couple of models. One is the 1,000 Points of Light concept. Lots of people going off and doing really worthy work at soup kitchens and helping refugees. There are just so many needs across the city, and that's probably what our organization was structured before I got there. And I was really interested in scale. How do you do some good and then scale it? We're not talking about helping 5 people, which is tremendous, but how can you really help 500 people? And so we polled the members of the department with particularly kind of immigration, veterans, and education being the 3 broad categories. I had a particular passion for veterans, so I rigged the vote and directed everything to veterans. No, but getting people to kind of buy into it, and then getting some great partners.
Nicole, what does this partnership allow you to do that you would not be able to do on your own?
Yeah, a lot. So, as I mentioned, we're a small team. Our Veterans Justice Center is just 3 attorneys and 1 law clerk. And yet LA is huge. Our county is bigger than Delaware. It's bigger than Rhode Island. We have thousands of veterans who need our help. We're actually also the homeless veteran capital of the United States. So we have more homeless veterans in our county than any other state. And our team is simply not robust enough to serve the need. So when Lisa's talking about this last clinic that we did, it was at the VA where homeless veterans are actually living. They're getting both housing as well as supportive services. And so we showed up thinking that we were going to be serving 30 veterans with our 30 volunteers, and yet the line for veterans kept going out the door. And we had to keep seeing more and more people. In fact, we didn't leave. The volunteers left and we stayed. But there's no way that we could have served that number of people in that limited amount of time. We were only there providing a clinic for 2.5 hours. And we wouldn't have been able to see them without the support of our partners. And that would have meant a lot of veterans leaving empty-handed without being empowered with legal information, legal services, and also getting the opportunity to meet us and then take their case home. We're not just talking about giving you advice on the site or helping you fill out a pleading on site. We're talking about finding veterans who need long-term help taking those cases on and fighting the system alongside with them. And we couldn't identify those veterans without the support of folks like Lisa. But it's more than just that. I mean, it's also helping us build better relationships with the VA. So now the VA is really like, when are you coming again? We want to build a clinic next week. We want this and that and the other. And it's been so wonderful for the VA to see how important legal services is to their clients. I think a lot of folks who aren't lawyers don't necessarily see the connection between someone who's in poverty and how a lawyer can help uplift them out of poverty. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is to meet a veteran whose income is very low and then to get them benefits, and now they're ineligible for LSC. So it's really nice to say, okay, I can't see you again, have a lovely time. But it's because of these relationships that we're able to do that. And so we are immensely grateful for Lisa and her team, and for the Association of Corporate Counsel in Los Angeles, because we also partner with their pro bono project to do this. So we're working with all sorts of corporate partners throughout the LA area.
Thank you, Nicole. And Dow, what does your partnership with Marsh & McLennan and the other corporate legal departments in Skadden allow you to do in serving veterans that you couldn't do on your own?
Yeah, definitely have increased our capacity to help veterans with issues we otherwise couldn't do by ourselves, just due to a lack of resources. Our Veterans Project before the Military Monday Clinic was more of a preventive approach. A veteran will come to us with an emergency, and we try to address that emergency. Now with the Military Monday Clinic, we're able to be more proactive. We're helping veterans apply for Social Security benefits so that they won't fix eviction when they have a stable income. We're helping veterans with downward child support modifications. That way it won't become an issue when their arrears accrue. We're helping veterans with housing issues, whether they need repairs done or they're facing eviction, they need to see an attorney right away. So with Military Monday Clinic, we're able to be more proactive with our approach as much as we can to help the veterans before they are faced with a life-changing emergency.
So to sum up, I think we've identified a number of characteristics that define the success of these programs. One is they are meeting clients where they are, particularly in VA facilities, not depending on people to find their way to a legal aid office. Second, training, absolutely critical to get volunteers comfortable with taking on matters they may never have handled before, complemented by on-site support, that when the volunteers go to these facilities to meet with veterans, they're not alone. They have experienced legal aid lawyers to talk to and consult with. What I would call bite-sized opportunities for the corporate lawyers. It's on-site that day. It's a manageable commitment in light of what their other duties are for the corporate legal department. Relationship with VA facilities, clearly important, and it's great to hear that they understand the benefit that you're bringing to veterans and are so supportive in expanding the facilities that they give you, for example. And finally is the importance of leadership. There are 4 leaders on this panel. Peter and Lisa, who have led the efforts inside their corporate legal departments to establish strong pro bono programs. Also legal aid leaders who know how to partner with others, who are eager to be integrated into their communities and to expand their limited resources by working together with the corporate legal community and with law firms to serve low-income veterans. What a terrific group, what great stories, what wonderful examples for us to take across the country. Would you please join me in thanking our panelists?